so we have this Hector Garza story running through the month. We'll actually cover it here because it does tie into the Jarrett stuff and then spin off into the Hall stuff. So previous show, December 10th, was main evented by Garza against AJ Styles, the winner of whom would face Jeff Jarrett the following week in a non-title match. So that's a big reward to get to wrestle Jeff Jarrett on television.
Well, the idea being that if you beat Jarrett there, you'll get yourself an NWA title match.
And I guess in this current instance where there's not a number one contender, that's, I guess, a better reward than others.
Really funny because he's like, and I got someone to call and I signed him and it was Hector Garza.
So December 10th was main evented by Styles and Garza. They had a decent match. They did this thing. How did you feel about their bilingual broadcasts where for all the Hector Garza main events they had a Spanish announcer at the desk doing like English-Spanish commentary simultaneously?
I liked his energy, but I thought it was a little clunky.
Because, like, yeah, Mike Tenay would do, like, the English portion of the call and talk for 30 seconds. And then throw to Moody Jack, who would do the Spanish portion of the call and talk for 30 seconds. And then they'd just do that back and forth for the entire match.
You know what I'd rather? If they just went all Spanish.
Yeah, get Mike Tenay out of here. I do hope that because they had Moody Jack at the English desk, they also sent Don West to the Spanish desk.
We need to do some research and find out. If anyone was watching these shows in Spanish at the time, please let us know if Don West came over to the other announce booth.
You hit the SAP button and you get Armando Quintero speaking Spanish and Don West shouting in English.
Oh, I want to watch that version.
Yeah, a decent match. I didn't care much for the finish. So the finish was AJ hit a superplex, but Garza cradled him and got his shoulder off the mat. So AJ was counted down for 3. Garza kicked out. Garza wins the match. They do show a replay on the next week's show where it makes it very clear AJ's shoulder wasn't down either, but...
Yeah, I mean, they tried to protect them both, but by protecting both, they made neither of them look good.
Yeah, it's that classic problem where you worked yourself into a shoot. You're like, we can't have him beat AJ clean, so we haven't beat AJ with bullshit. But it turns out AJ just looks like a dumbass for losing in a dumb way, and Garza gains nothing because he won in a dumb way.
Or even worse, it also makes your officials look like shit, and they don't need any more help doing that.
Yeah, so just have AJ be beaten by Garza. That's fine. If you're gonna have AJ lose, just have AJ lose.
And if it's a good match, people won't care.
This match did have a 15-minute time limit, which confused me at first because I looked at the clock and I saw a 10-minute time limit. I was like, 10 minutes. And then I looked like 2 minutes later and there was 13 minutes on the clock. And I was like, wait, what's happened here?
They're counting up, Garrett.
But I went back and checked and the clock starts on 10, ticks down for a couple seconds, then jumps to 15 and starts again. And I was like, I'm not going crazy.
I think you still are.
I think 5 of the 6 TV main events have 15-minute time limits in this month as opposed to 10. And they explain it every time. It's like Dusty Rhodes, the importance of this match is giving it a 15-minute time limit. It's like, just give all 10 main events 15-minute time limits at this stage.
I think I would prefer that. I like uniformity with my wrestling shows. And especially with time limits, I think they only work if you commit to them. Which isn't hard either, like, just have the announcers be like, 10-minute time limit at like other time. That's what annoyed me about some of the phases when Dynamite would not use the time limits correctly. Just, like, you don't even have to, like, have a thing on the screen or do calls, which I missed. I miss them doing calls, they're great. But, just have them go, like, just have them say at the start of the match. It's so easy.
So December 17th, main evented by Jarrett against Garza. Garza earned the title shot, well, not the title shot, the match with Jarrett by beating Styles. This time they had Moody Jack join Mike and Don. They didn't get rid of Don, they just added him to the two of them.
The one guy on the Spanish team just talking to himself.
Poor guy, yeah, he's all by his lonesome. I hope they gave him Conan.
I was actually curious about this too. If we do have anyone that was listening to it in Spanish at the time, and who listens to AEW Spanish at the currently, was it actually good? Because I hear that from most people that do listen to the Spanish version of Dynamite that the Spanish team sucks. So I'm curious, like, was the Spanish side of Impact at the time actually good? Yeah,
Moody Jack and Armando Quintero, I think, were the commentators at this stage. In fact, I know because both of them were on main commentary for. Oh no! I've Women's World Cupped it with main commentary. No!
Wow, Garrett, you horrible racist! Wait until Dave hears about this.
Garza accidentally bumped the ref. Jarrett tried to use the guitar, but Thomas recovered. Garza was about to go for a tornado.
we can't call it Women's World Cupping it.
What?
Like, we can't call it Women's World Cupping it like when we fuck up and we call something the main version of two things. That's loaded language, which makes it much worse.
Yeah, I think if we weren't cancelled in the first place, we are now.
Yeah. I was referring to a mistake I made. You were using it as an actual like a descriptor.
No, I was still referring back to your error.
I think that's true. I liked the Jeff Jarrett guitar shot in this.
Yeah, Garza was about to go for the tornado, but Hall and Nash came out. Nash threw some punches on Garza, and I was like, why isn't that a DQ? But to be fair, they built that into the story. Garza took them out with a dropkick. The referee was then about to disqualify Jarrett, but Garza was like, no, I want to beat him. And then as Thomas was getting Hall and Nash out of the ring, Jarrett hit Garza with a guitar mid-torneo.
Crazy. And like, probably just whacked him right in the face. When I was watching this, I was like, Garza looks like he's setting up for this a little more than he normally does. And then I was like, that would be why.
Because he's getting nailed with the guitar in midair.
Like, and that's a crazy, like, one to get hit with, too. Like, didn't like the Bucks like do a super kick to someone while they were moonsaulting? That was like just as crazy.
Yeah, and the Ricochet's done something like that as well, hasn't he? Johnny Gargano's
Yeah.
Ricochet. Was that spot?
I think it was Cole.
Oh, it was Cole, you're right.
Yeah, so but like that kind of shit, like I you can understand why someone has to take an extra minute.
And yeah, Jarrett won after the guitar shot. So this continues the push of Hector Garza, spinning him off into a feud with Cole and Nash. December 24, Christmas Eve. Roddy Piper's here.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Roddy Piper's here to say some horrible things. Hey!
So Piper comes to the ring and he has a mariachi band with him. And
which is never a good sign.
He tortures this poor band.
They're like, we got paid to do like a guest spot here, and Piper keeps making them do stuff.
Yeah, they come out, they play some music, and then Piper's like, okay, stop. And then he's like, now play again. And they look a little confused for like 3 seconds. Then they start playing again. Piper's like, no, stop again.
Then one guy starts playing again. And then they all like go, oh, okay, we're doing this.
They are all just deeply confused and put off by Piper. But the point of this is that he invites out Hector Garza, and he talks about the loss to Jarrett. And like, he asks Garza a question. Garza has, I think it's Moody Jack in the ring doing the translations for him. So he asks the question in English. Garza does his promo in Spanish, and then Moody Jack translates. And like, Garza does his promo, Moody Jack does the translation, and Piper's like, I don't think that's what he said.
Yeah. I don't know what this was. This felt like Piper was like burying Garza.
Yeah, the point of this segment was like to have Garza be a star by association with Piper and then get the better of Hall and Nash. But because of Piper just being Piper and being like the most unhinged, like uncontrollable man, he is thoroughly off his leash, as I think he said 1 week. He cannot be controlled. He cannot be trusted to deliver segments like this without dragging them off the rails. That it just ended up making Garza look bad. And like Garza was like, oh, I want to come for the title. And Piper's like, well, you lost to Jarrett. And that's not what you should be reinforcing here, Roddy.
Yeah.
Garza says he lost the match because of Hall and Nash, which brought Hall and Nash out. Hall says, don't sing it, bring it. Then Piper repeated that in a Mexican accent.
Which was very cool.
They gave Garza a guitar and asked him to play a hit. Then Garza hit Hall with the side of the guitar.
Yeah, it was such a whomp that I thought it was a non-gimmick guitar for a second.
Yeah, he just bonked him with the guitar sideways. It looked like it sucked.
And then but the absolute professionals of these guys, they get Hall up again and he whomps him for real.
Yeah, so then he dropkicked Nash and then he nailed him over the head with the guitar properly. And this pleased Piper to the degree that he shouted, "Yee-haw!" after he hit him with the guitar.
Okay.
After the first Garza Outsiders confrontation, where Garza cleared house on both, some fans at ringside made fun of Nash for being beaten up by Garza. Nash got in their faces and said, "Don't you guys know this shit is fake, dumbass?"
They should have been like, yeah, we're playing along, dickhead.
So Piper apparently does not remember his lines, so writes them down on the palm of his hand.
This is a fucking... a sitcom sketch where like I have to write things down on my hand, but then like I get sweaty and I can't read them. That's why he goes off the rails, because he's like, alright, it's just a bunch of scribbles. That's why his promos are so incoherent. He just sees different words floating about his hand.
So, according to Dave, I should have went back and checked the tape, but according to Dave, if you watch him while he's introducing Hector Garza in this segment, he says the words Hector, then obviously looks down at his hand to remember the rest of the name, and it's like, Garza!
Yeah. It was not a segment that made Hector Garza look particularly good coming out of it.
No, and it's one of those things where it's like, in theory, you understand what they're doing, and then in practice, it makes him look like a geek.
We call that the Roddy Piper effect.
The following week, Hector Garza faces Scott Hall in the main event. Earlier in the show, Garza's walking backstage as Scott Hall and Kevin Nash are sitting on a bench, wearing some ponchos and sombreros with their head bowed. Garza walks past them. They look up, they nod at each other, they duck their heads again.
This is very TNA comedy.
And like, there's no reason for this. There's no callback to it. It's not like
it's just like they thought of something funny to film.
Yeah, there's no reason. They don't jump them. There's not a story. There's nothing. It's just they did a little skit where they're sitting there dressed in sombreros and hats, or sombreros are hats, but sombreros and ponchos. And Garza walks past them. They give each other a little nod. They're very pleased with themselves. And that's it. That's the whole reason this segment exists.
I respect it.
I really do. These guys are getting paid $5,000 a pop to come here and just goof around.
Which probably like influenced how this company's promo styles and backstage segments would develop moving forward.
Yeah, the Nash influence. Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame worthy for influencing the TNA comedy.
Well, you see, this is why you need to get your ballot so you can vote for the outsiders for this run specifically.
Yeah, everyone's like, their WCW case has merit if you think about it. And I'm like, no, TNA comedy has merit if you think about it.
Well, the greatest wrestling segment of all time, the Team 3D funeral, would that have happened without Kevin Nash in this company? I don't know.
Yeah. So main event of that December 31st Impact is Scott Hall versus Hector Garza in a match where I'm still like marveling at how Scott Hall is still good.
Yeah, he puts it together.
And he absolutely shouldn't be at this stage of his career in 2004. But he's still pretty good.
He's like as good. It's very weird.
Like all his moves just still have that same snap to them. Like there's just that little bit of extra oomph, that little bit of extra polish on every single thing he does that makes him just seem much better than everybody else in the show. Like he's the truest of pros.
It does make you a little sad because you're like, what if this guy could have kept it on track the whole time? Because he's so good at this stage.
Yeah, like he's like just the fundamentals. That's the thing. Like his fundamentals are so leaps and bounds above everybody else that, again, as I said, even here doing a 5-minute television match against Hector Garza, does it? He pops. He still like jumps off the screen as a guy who's a better worker than nearly everybody else around him.
There's this like thing that goes around about like Scott Hall being an overrated guy.
They're wrong.
Yeah, they're wrong, and like I think you're pretty dumb about that, because if this guy was like straight-laced wrestler guy for the rest of his career, like I think he would have made it to every level.
And when you look at like this is 2004, where he's not in shape, and like he has had every demon in the world at this stage.
Yeah.
And he's still pretty darn good.
It's insane.
So Armando Quintero was on commentary this time with Mike and Don. There was a special 15-minute time limit again for this match, even though it ultimately only went about 5. Garza knocked Nash off the apron. Nash took a surprisingly big bump for that.
These guys do respect the boys. They just don't respect the office.
Yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah, I admire it.
Kevin Nash says workers' rights.
Yes. I mean, probably.
Garza took Nash out with a baseball slide, then he went up top for the tornado, but Hall crotched him, and then Hall picked him right out of the corner into the Razor's Edge to win, and then Piper came out to close the show, because earlier in the show, NWA-TNA, I think, produced a miracle, where he did a sit-down interview with Roddy Piper that had a purpose, and it fulfilled the purpose without Piper derailing it. And I like, listen, it's like, I like the aesthetic of the interview they did, where it was the top of the ramp interview, which they've done before in the Asylum, but I think this is the first time they've done what Mike today in the Impact Zone. And I think that top of the ramp interview in the empty Impact Zone looks really good. It's a really cool aesthetic.
I like any of these kind of interviews that aren't just in the back.
Yeah, even later in the month, or in January, I suppose, they do the sit down with Jeff Hammond, where it's Nash, DDP, and Monty in the ring, but again in an empty Impact Zone. And I think it just adds a cool, different vibe to those interviews.
It definitely helps them stand out.
Yeah, so Mike Tenay was doing this sit down interview with Roddy Piper, where he was announcing that Piper will be part of Final Resolution, that Dusty Rhodes has replaced Terry Funk on the championship committee with Roddy Piper.
Disgraceful.
Terry Funk, who has never been seen since he was announced in the championship committee, has been fired.
Do you think he got any money for his name being constantly mentioned?
I don't know. I hope so, but probably not.
Yeah, you can't just do that.
You can't just use somebody's name in your show without their permission and or paying them. No, you can't.
Yeah, we're gonna start being yes, Chris Jericho, we love him. He's always talking about how he's gonna come on the show and start talking to everyone. Just keep tuning in.
He's part of the You've Got to Be Kidding Me Championship Committee.
Yes, we'd like to officially announce the 3 members of the You've Got to Be Kidding Me Championship Committee: Chris Jericho, Liam Jones, and Terry Funk.
Yeah. I think they make good decisions.
No, you meant to get up and start knocking over the monitors with AMW.
Yeah, so Dusty fired Funk, which I do appreciate. At least that's a little bit of continuity. He's like, I've gotten power, so get Funk out of here.
Get the funk out of here.
So the new championship committee has raised Zbyszko and Piper, and now Piper is also TNA's new enforcer. Dusty Rhodes he's a special enforcer for the company.
The enforcer, Roddy Piper.
I said, fair enough, it's mostly because Mike Tenay did 80% of the talking and cut Roddy Piper off every chance he could.
And also pre-tape.
Yeah, he is the only man so far to wrangle Roddy Piper in TNA history. So Mike Tenay, Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame case, emboldened.
You're gonna have to make a big compilation video with all your Mike Tenay Hall of Fame case bits.
So it was meant to then be Hall and Garza in a rematch at the pay-per-view, where Garza was meant to get the win back on Hall after losing on television. Unfortunately, as we talked about, Garza had his run-in with the law, with the American police, so he was pulled from that match, and Jeff Hardy was pulled from the Abyss match because of the Abyss situation, so they were just like, let's shove those 2 matches together on the pay-per-view. So the pay-per-view match ended up being Jeff Hardy versus Scott Hall, with Roddy Piper as special referee.